I appreciate you coming on here for a couple of minutes.
You got it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back into the game here in Tuscaloosa and Tide, 102.9 and 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. And right now we're going to go, as we love to do this time of the year, is talk with coaches and former players who have played the game and coached the game. The head coach of Florida Atlantic, Coach Lane Kiffin. Welcome back to Tuscaloosa. I hope you're having a great day, sir.
I am glad to be on here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Coach, I'm just curious, when you look at recruiting going down to Florida Atlantic, how has that changed over the course of the last going into year number 3?
Well, our success in year 1, winning 11 games, then now just have a couple guys drafted, and both running backs get drafted. Actually, the 2 schools in the country that had 2 running backs drafted were Alabama and Florida Atlantic, ironically.
Sure.
But I think that success and kids doing well and has made it easier to recruit than at first, where at first you're coming into a program that only won 3 games in 3 years. And so, you had to tell guys, hey, this is what it'll be like, versus now they've seen some of the success as a team and then individually.
Well, you look at Florida Atlantic, and it's the perfect landscape. We feature Coach Howard Snellenberger a lot, and I'm sure he's probably sitting there smiling ear to ear, looking at you guys have success and to be able to recruit. But looking at Florida Atlantic, I mean, it's such a natural recruiting base, and it's a beautiful landscape, climate. Everything around it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a natural recruiting tool there.
It is. As Coach Snellenberger named it years ago, football in paradise. Our coaches come in and complain about the cost of living. I said, well, when your cost of living and house are really high, that's a good thing. It means that everyone wants to live there, so it's a really good place to live. So, it is. There's a reason why so many people move down here. Because it's a great place to live.
Have you been maybe surprised at the energy around the program? Because, Coach, we see it from a distance. I mean, we were down in Fort Lauderdale back at the end of 2018, but just looking at the energy around the program, it seems like that's also been an uptick in the interest in the involvement of the fans.
It has. Like I said, I think that year 1 of 11 wins, going undefeated in the conference, got a lot of energy around the program, and so. People, but especially kids nowadays, okay, what have you done for me lately, and so, that's really helped us in recruiting and in fan base.
Coach, when you're looking at the month of May and you're about 100 days out, what's going through your mind as you're trying to evaluate? Is there too much film study? What's this time of the year dedicated for coaches in preparations for the upcoming season?
Well, we used to be out spring recruiting, but years ago they took the head coaches off the road, which your boss there in town doesn't like that role very much, Coach Saban, because he loves being out recruiting. So now the assistant coaches go out in the spring and the head coaches don't. So we're more in the office, taking care of our current players and issues, and then at the same time you start looking at what other teams are doing and ideas, and then also your opponents for next year coming up soon.
Coach, when you look at preparing, is there too much film study that you do? Because you were a guy that obviously was a brilliant play caller. And I mean, I look back at some of the ways that you designed plays, the way that you were so creative. Is there a thing as too much film study? Is that such a thing?
I don't think so. And sometimes with the kids it is if you put too much on them. But for coaches, no, I think it's always good. And you don't all, even in your good years, we have up and downs, and even our good years, you don't want to stay the same. You always want to evolve and grow and learn from other people.
Coach, do you like the direction offensively in college football? Do you like the direction that we're going?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. But, I think all offensive coaches are fine with it and defensive coaches aren't.
Sure.
So, it is what it is. And I've said it many times, it's 2 different leagues, college, and not 2 different leagues, 2 different sports, college and the NFL. And so a lot of times we used to study the NFL a lot more and visit the NFL, and now I really don't do that because it's almost like 2 different sports. So it's changed a lot.
Coach, when you look at it, though, and you look at Nick Saban of what he's doing offensively, I know that I've asked you this before, and you keep saying that Nick Saban is the one that kind of came to you and said, we've got to change, we've got to stay ahead. But you've got to look back and take a little bit of sense of pride into maybe changing offensive directions. I mean, we've watched a lot of offensive records fall, and a lot of that got started when you came to the University of Alabama.
Well, I've said it before, Coach wanted to change. That's well documented. And then, we were fortunate to have great players, in that 3-year run there, and, 3 SEC championships and actually 3 SEC Offensive Players of the Year. So, I'm proud of those 3 years because of how well those kids played, but also, as you see still to this day, a lot of that same change, you see, out there on the field. And so, that credit goes to Coach Saban. If you want to say, oh, well, you went in and did it, well, it wouldn't have worked if he wouldn't have, been behind it and been for it. And so, and I think that success kept carrying on. And as you can see, they look nothing like they did, 5 years ago now, before that.
Coach Kiffin, can you take a minute and just talk about Amari Cooper? We were reflecting, and we love to do this. We talk football 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks out of the year. We were looking back at Amari Cooper's season in 2014, not just Alabama records, but those were some SEC records that he absolutely destroyed. Talk about Amari Cooper and kind of what led into that season of having all that great success.
Well, his work ethic, he works so hard and great kid, and his ability to play multiple positions because he's so smart. You can't catch whatever it was, 120 some balls just by playing the same position all the time. You're too easy to take away. And so credit goes to him for that. And I always think seasons like that pay off for years and years and years to come in recruiting. When Amari Cooper has a year like that, where before that, I think he only caught like 40 passes or 40 or 50 passes the year before. And, I think the school record was, 70 or something like that by Julio. When you have a year like that where someone goes for 700 yards, 120-some catches, then the Calvin Ridleys come, and then the Jerry Judys come. Those kids for years to come always go back to, hey, that year I can go to Alabama now and not, being a run-heavy offense that doesn't, move the ball to the same guy all the time, which was kind of the knock before sometimes in recruiting. So now you're able to sell that for years and years, just like Derrick Henry, the most rushes in the history of the SEC in a year, and the Heisman, and, they'll sign running backs for years to come, including whatever it was. I think that next year we signed 4 running backs or something after that. So those type of amazing seasons by those kids, really pay off for years to come, I always think.
100%. I don't think Alabama would have the wide receiver room that they've got right now without that 2014. And then you talk about Derrick Henry, 395 carries in one season, which destroyed Sean Alexander's record here at Alabama, was like 305. And so he put 90 past it. But as you're sitting there calling plays and you're looking at this workhorse, and I know you had to because of some injuries, but, was there ever a mindset that you're like, how much more can this guy carry? Because if I remember correctly, it had to be 45 against Auburn down there. It was amazing that number of carries that Derrick Henry was able to sustain that type of workload.
Well, 7 days later, it's 90 carries between 7 days. That's what's really crazy. 44 and 46 carries in those 2 games. An Iron Bowl and an SEC championship versus some really good players on defense. So that just shows you amazing to be able to do that ever, let alone at the end of the year, after 300 carries going into those games. So it really was amazing, and, took a lot of pride how those kids were able to do back-to-back years that you could shatter the SEC receiver records with one and then come back to running back, and do the same. So as you can see, it's why they're both great players in the NFL.
Coach, what is the biggest difference between you and Sark offensive philosophy?
That's a good question. We used to be almost identical a long time ago because we were together for so long together at UFC, kind of grew up together. And then I think probably over the last few years, he's probably got a little more pro style now after going back to the Falcons for a couple of years, where ours is now so college driven compared to where it used to be. We're used to have more pro style elements. We've moved a long ways away from that here, and we have a lot of Baylor influence here now in our offense. Which has even evolved more from when we left Alabama.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, obviously, we're very excited. I mean, we try to feature as many guys, and we had Yogi Roth on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about Sark, and I mean, I think there's a reason. When you look at all these wide receivers, Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterbacks, I mean, there's a reason to be excited about him calling plays here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got a great play caller, and you got, great players. I mean, as you well know, that backfield last year, and with the guys coming back, and then the receivers almost all coming back, and Tua just in his second year of starting, which is crazy. And runner up for the Heisman in his first year of really, starting. So it should be really exciting. And I think I saw the spring game numbers were, just foreshadowing what's to come. Usually that spring game, you've been watching there for years, is not an offensive, showcase because you're playing against Alabama's defense. So that was really impressive, those numbers.
Coach, when you see that Coach Saban has hip replacement surgery and he's back to work 36 hours later, are you shocked?
Yeah. What took him so long?
Sure.
That's surprising. I'm surprised he didn't have it. He didn't have it in his office and work through the surgery.
Yeah, but you hear it, Coach. I mean, listen, you're in the fraternity, and we're here, and we see Nick Saban, but it's like, on the recruiting trail, they keep talking about this guy's slowing down. He's getting, recruiting negative has always been there. But as you approach 67 and you go into that, and it's he's slowing down. He's getting ready to retire, and I got a front row seat here in Tuscaloosa. I'm like, they don't see the same Saban that you see and many others see. This guy's not slowing down.
No, and I think everybody around him, knew that was going to be the case. He's not, like these guys also going to start, taking some more time off or some more fishing trips or something like that. That's not Coach's DNA. He's not going to work any different when he was 30 years old and 70 years old. That's just, that's not who he is. Every day is exactly the same.
But, Coach, you had a chance to work for him. What motivates him? What keeps him going at this pace?
His just drive to be the best and, never satisfied, never happy, always, hey, there's a better way to do things. We can get better. You've heard the stories of winning national championships and, like he says, hey, take a picture and hand it to someone else and get ready to go win another one. That's just not a saying that he says. That's how he lives.
Coach, let me ask you a final question. We're talking with Coach Lane Kiffin, Florida Atlantic University head coach. We've got a chance to get to know Coach O, and you kind of root for the good guys in the business. It was kind of fun to see him have the year that he had last year. But Coach O is you can just see how he connects with his players, and I think he gets a lot out of that. Look at what Coach O is doing at LSU, and look at the way that he's connected with that players and that culture. I know he's a close friend of yours, and kind of excited to see what he can do going into another year at LSU.
Well, that's why guys get better with experience. So like Coach Saban's better now than he was at Michigan State. And so I think Coach O's really evolved because he was always high energy, great recruiter. But he was he'll tell you himself at Ole Miss really hard on the players. And so he's evolved, and you see it. The players just passionately love playing for him, and he's done a great job there, and recruiting at a high level, and so his next steps go win the championship.
Now, did I read this correctly? You guys have got the Buckeyes in 108 days. 108 days, Ohio State University.
Yeah, and then UCF. So two top 15 programs, top 10 programs really the last couple of years. And so, it's a good way to get started.
There's no doubt. College football, as we talk here in Tuscaloosa all the time. Coach, thank you again for making a couple of minutes with us. We continue to follow the success not only you're having there at Florida Atlantic, but all those Alabama ties, and kind of rooting for all those guys to continue to have success there at FAU. Thank you so much for being a part of the show here in Tuscaloosa. Thank you, sir.
Anytime. Have a great week. Thanks.
Hey, what a great conversation it was with Coach Lane Kiffin. We're going to continue. We'll take more phone calls on the other side, 205-342-9904. Lines available right now. Jump into the conversation. But it was a lot of fun to be able to catch up with Lane Kiffin and looking at what he was able to do from moving this offense to a different direction. I don't know if Alabama would be the attractive place that Coach Lane Kiffin and many others helped create here at the University of Alabama. We'll take your phone calls, 205-342-9904. You're listening to Tuscaloosa's longest-running sports show, The Game on Tide, 102.9 and 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide.